Welcome to Simply Why, a podcast about money and purpose, where we pull back the curtain on running a financial advisory business focused on providing intentional advice to couples and families. I'm Dennis Morton.
And I'm Katie Brown. Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back to the Simply Why podcast with Dennis and Katie. Katie, today we're going to do what's kind of become an annual thing for us, our 3-word discussion on the 3 words for 2026. But also we're going to start back and talk about 2025, the year that was, the words that were, and where we go from here. So do you want to talk a little bit about what 3 words we chose for 2025 and how that played out for us?
Sure. And I love that we're pulling this 3-word discussion forward because it is something that has been motivating over the years. And it's interesting to see how the words have changed depending on what we think about the year ahead and where we think that we're headed. So in 2025, our 3 words were bold, oxygen, and evolve. I have to admit, bold, I probably struggled the most with this word out of the 3 of them. I think part of it is, part of it's my personality as far as like how I think about showing up bold. But a lot of our thought process with the word bold was to really voice things that we are seeing and observing and being outspoken about ways that we feel like we can help clients and that clients should expect, things they should expect from their advisor. And I have very strong opinions about that. But as far as putting it out there and finding that way to connect in a bold, respectful, and just a way that lands at the right level. I struggle with that a little bit.
I think the first few years of running the business, we were still getting comfortable in our skin relative to our clients and our team and everything else. And I think bold was like, we were ready in 2025 to embrace who we are, what we do, where we're going. I think it was a big thing at the end of 2024 when we shared our big, hairy, audacious goal with our clients. And we were comfortable doing that. And the response was really good, really positive. And I think it's like, oh, okay, we can be bold and talk about the really cool things that we're doing and the way it's having an impact. And maybe that kicks in another level of attraction. You're finding the right people to join our team, finding the right clients we can serve, that all those things. I think it's a progression. And we kind of got to that point, said, yeah, we're going to be bold this year.
Yes, I love that. And even though bold does not continue on as one of our specified words for 2026, it's always still in the back of my mind as far as how do we bring that forward in a bold way. And once again, all to benefit clients and families.
Yeah. We thought about making like brash or arrogant the next step on from that, but we pulled back. So we'll share with you where we went in 2026 later.
So how about oxygen?
Okay. This was one that I'm glad we settled on this word.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't feel natural. It kind of like one of these things just might not belong, but it really was about, breathing life into things, creating space for ourselves, creating space to operate, and just that idea of air and fresh air. And I think when we settled on this word, it's like, yeah, that's something that we really like. There's a lightness to it that we want to have, in our work. What did you think?
Yeah, I'd say in our work and in our lives. Also, I think oxygen was also a way of finding that balance too. It was a way of really encouraging, we've shared it before. Our team is awesome, fantastic at getting out and going for walks and getting that fresh air and kind of re-energizing themselves for the work to be done. And we encourage that. And also we get excited about different things that each of us do. We get excited when we hear about an amazing hike or activity or something else. So I think that there's a certain energy with the oxygen, but I also like that idea of, you said, giving space to one another and really encouraging a voice for everyone in our firm and how they contribute to the work that we do and how they think about the families we serve and how we can make that better and continually make it better.
Yeah. And then the last one, I think this, if there was a word that defined 2025, the third one, evolve, it was an evolutionary year, right?
100%. We nailed this one last year.
Yeah, and we knew some of it. We knew we were going to be building a new office space. That was kind of in the cards. We knew that was going to happen. But there were other ways that we just had it became just this year of building and changing. Where were the big ways that you saw things evolve?
Definitely on the team front. We had a couple of new hires last year. We shifted around some roles. I feel as if we're in a very robust place from the team perspective. So I think our team has evolved, and honestly, technology.
Yeah, I didn't think about that actually. Seriously, especially thinking now.
Yeah, yeah. We adopted new technology. We went deeper. Last year's when we came out with our new client portal and the app and different ways to communicate and to share information. We really started to embrace some of the changes in technology that are coming down the road. So I think there was a huge evolution.
Yeah, and I think our culture evolved too.
Mhm.
I mean, it was something one of the proudest moments that we had last year. We were hiring 2 new people at the end of the year. It was gonna be, again, a lot of change and evolution in roles and everything else, and it was, like, around Thanksgiving, and Maddie and Melanie came to us and said, "Hey, between Thanksgiving and the holiday break, we're gonna have a lot of time off. We have 2 new people. We're gonna have to get them trained up, so when we come back on January 5th, we're all ready to go." And here's the training plan. And we went, what? They presented us with a plan to get our new team members up and running. And it was just amazing to see that they cared so much about the function and the culture of this unit of 10 people that they wanted to own it. And this is stuff that this stuff wasn't even on our bingo card a few years ago. And now it's happening organically. And it was a really beautiful thing. And I think a real sign of evolution within the team.
I would actually argue that that particular event, as you described it, is really a combination of all of these words. Us giving, space, oxygen to one another to think creatively, for them to put together something and be bold about bringing it forward, and then to recognize like this is part of the evolution. I think that really encompasses really all of our words from last year.
You're absolutely right. In fact, you're right. They were emboldened to do this, and knowing that we would not only be receptive, but be like, "Wow, we didn't even think of that." It's just it's totally true.
Which is why we surround ourselves with
Yeah,
very smart
yes,
people.
yeah, we do.
So how about 2026?
Yeah. So this was a good one. I mean, I really feel like when we sat down at the end of 25 and we're thinking about this, we were doing it in a new office space that reflected who we were, with a team that was a reflection of where we were going, and it felt like this was going to be a year of like acceleration and I guess kind of like interplay and timing. So the first word we settled on was rhythm. And once we see all of our processes clicking, and there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes in an advisory business. And we see it sometimes when a new client comes on board and brings their statements over, and you look at them and they seem really out of rhythm. That there's just disconnects everywhere. Things are moving at a different pace. There's no cohesion, no sense of flow. And I think part of that's an example of it, but we wanted to have a lot of rhythm in the business. It's hard to get into, but you really notice when you're out of it. And it's going to become harder the more people are involved.
Well, and so our other words, in my mind, it's kind of a continuum. They all link together. So another word that we had was pursuit, and I think this can show up in a lot of different ways. Obviously, we can pursue new families to work with. We can pursue, a better client experience, and but to go after something without having all of the support behind it can land sort of flat. And so one of the other words that we had was consistency. And so it's that continual showing up. We're going to pursue something, we're going to continually show up and hopefully show up with value and deliver value along the way. And then eventually we find that rhythm. And it's this sort of continuous cycle. So the three words this year are really motivating and continuous in my mind.
Yeah. I think you can come up with a lot of analogies for this. Some of them would be in sports. I'm going to start in something that I always like thinking about, which are like band dynamics, like musicians. And I think of something like recently, Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead passed away. And I think of one thing that you know about the 50 plus years that the Grateful Dead were playing is one, rhythm was so important to them. In fact, they had two drummers. Literally, you only need one, I think, but they had two. But there was literally a rhythm. And when you're jamming and when you're blending from one song to another, the blends were seamless. They could jam for hours and just go from one song to the next. And and that you notice it when it's there and it's special,
Uh-huh.
when you see it and when you feel it, but also a pursuit. They were trying to do something really big. Like they had a just this vision of what the band could be, and they followed it over the decades, and people followed along with them. They pursued their audience, and the audience pursued them. It was a feeling of mutual connectedness that happened there, and then the consistency to do it year after year after year, committing to live act. I mean, that's an organization that does it one way, and I think in a lot of ways, well, even a small business like this, it's like a band. You notice when you're out of whack. You notice when you're not consistent, and you notice when you're not pursuing the right things.
I would say the same for athletes. You know, we just finished up the Winter Olympics, and you can see it in the athletes. You can sense their pursuit of the gold, something great. You know, they didn't just show up there. It was through that consistent work, that consistent drive, that consistent effort. But to actually win the gold, you have to find that rhythm. It can't be clunky. It has to be smooth and executed well.
Yeah,
And I think that holds true really across all sports,
yeah.
most part.
What was your favorite
Uh,
event? Did you have one that you kept going back to over and over again?
I don't know that I kept going. I loved a lot of the different ski ones. Honestly, silly, I really enjoyed watching the cross country skiing.
But yeah, that was phenomenal.
Yeah. It's something that I think is totally underappreciated and way harder than people expect it to be. I mean, but once again, they find that rhythm. It just looks so smooth and effortless, but they are working hard.
Yeah, and even something like speed skating. There's when they're like short track or something like that. That's fascinating to watch because when you see them going, there is a rhythmic nature to it. They're just the way they're pumping their legs and their arms and the swings. I remember being a kid on roller skates, like mimicking how they would swing their arms as they went around the track. And then I'd crash into the basketball pole. But yeah, I think there is
I
there
don't
is
think I can watch the speed skating though without my back hurting. I
just the
always
leaning
wonder
over.
like how
I've
how they
never thought
build
about
the
that.
certain
Like
muscles to be able to do that
to be able to
at like
bent
such a
over like that.
strenuous way. Yes, yeah, that blows my mind.
12-year-old self could do it. Myself right now could not. I feel that. I feel that. So what are you excited about this year? When we think about these three words and putting it all together, what does it mean for the families we serve? What does it mean for the team to have these out? Well, one, I think these went over really well with the team.
I agree. I agree. Honestly, I think what I'm excited about is feeling like a seamless delivery for clients. So when we think about the client experience, I hope all of these things are showing up very smooth, very intentional, very just on point with what they need and where they're at, recognizing every family relationship is different, but I think that we can find that rhythm and hopefully deliver seamless value.
More thought on just the pursuit side of it, because I think there is an element of getting after it and the implication is it hustle culture? Like, are you doing it for the sake of doing it? And I come back to the author Seth Godin, who wrote a great book a few years ago called This Is Marketing. And one of the tenets of his book on marketing is that it's an act of generosity, doing your best work,
Mm,
promoting it in a bold way, getting after it and seeking out, more opportunities is you saying, this is my best work that I'm offering out into the world to serve other people. And it is an act of generosity. And I like that mindset for the team. I think we feel that with the team is that they're trying so hard to put that work in, to chase down opportunities, to pursue. And I think there's a chemistry that's created from that pursuit.
I agree. I agree. We had a newer client in for a meeting today, and it was the financial plan presentation. Up to this point, we've had a couple other smaller meetings, and he's an older gentleman, retired, came into the office today, and he just has such joy when he comes in. And I was talking to him, and he said, "This is my one appointment for the day, and I'm excited to get out." And like he truly is excited. And I said, "Well, thank you for letting us, be the highlight of your day." And I said, "Well, maybe you have other things planned." He's like, "Oh no, I am really excited for this. I've been looking forward to this." He had a fantastic meeting. At the end of the meeting, he said, I I can't tell you how great this experience is to feel like I have clarity and wondering why I waited so long to do it. And he said, I've had accounts, I've had advisors before, I've spoken on the phone with them, but to sit down and to know the team and to feel like things are moving and he didn't say rhythm, but in my mind I was hearing there's a rhythm and he feels heard and seen. And that's what all of this I think comes down to. And it was just so great to receive that feedback and to just once again just see the joy and confidence
Yeah.
that can come from that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly. I think you alluded to it earlier. It's a feeling. All of these things are a feeling. Like when you're in rhythm, you know when you're being consistent about things, and you know when you're pursuing the right things. It feels that much better. It's cohesive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So what would you recommend to our listeners?
I would recommend thinking about your three words. It's not too late. We're a little bit into the year now, but this is an exercise, especially with the other stakeholders. Like
Right.
you and I are the ones that sit down and determine these. We usually survey the team in one of our offsites toward the end of the year, just some words that they think might be good, and then we hone them. Talk to the people and talk to your family members, talk to your spouse about what are the words that we want to define 2026, and check back on them at the end of the year. See what happens, and whether you just kind of naturally aligned toward those things. Does it become a check along the way to say, hey, you know what, it really doesn't feel like we're doing that thing that we wanted to define this year. In investing, we say this a lot. The soft stuff is the hard stuff. And assigning language to what you're trying to do, it might seem foofy, but we've seen it really help to define some of the years we've had and define the experiences of our team along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, really appreciate everybody joining in today and listening to some of our thoughts behind the scenes and how we bring things forward for our team. And if anyone does want to do this 3-word exercise and they want to kind of bounce some ideas off, please feel free to reach out. We always enjoy new conversations and new people and would totally welcome that. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Simply Why, a podcast about money and purpose. We hope you enjoyed getting to know us, how we approach leading a financial advisory practice, and the work we do every day to help families and couples make important financial decisions.
Morton Brown Family Wealth is an SEC-registered investment advisor. This podcast is designed for educational and informational purposes and not intended as investment advice. More information can be found at www.mortonbrownfw.com.